Hello and thank you for being here. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I do advocacy around OCD, in particular the community that is referred to as pure OCD, which is also the name of my memoir. This is bringing awareness to individuals who have intrusive thoughts with mental rituals. I'm also a certified peer support specialist here in the state of Colorado, working to support people worldwide and also bring them referrals and resources wherever they are in the world. I'm the co-founder of OCD Peers back here. We run groups almost every single day pertaining to OCD and anxiety, helping to give you support and so you can meet other people to know that you're not alone. Go to ocdpeers.com. Now, if you're looking for therapy, NOCD is an organization that is not only an app to provide support, but they also provide therapy here in the States, in every single state, as well as Australia, the UK, and I believe Canada at this point, and they will be expanding. Go to treatmyocd.com, or you can click on the link in the description below. I'll remember to put it there this time. I think I forgot last time. But go there to find out, and if you're looking to see if they're going to come to your country anytime soon, you can inquire there as well to see what their expansion program is going to look like. So I'm doing a little bit of a series here. I get a lot of questions regarding OCD and kind of the same questions over and over, not necessarily because it's OCD, maybe a little bit, but because I think that when you have OCD, the same things come up for almost everybody in their journey, and I wanted to address some of these kind of in this series of videos, so you can just get some context, or I can refer you to a video if I can't get back to you over email or things like that. So tonight I wanted to talk about, I get this question a lot, what is recovery like when you have OCD, and how will I know when I'm in recovery? Look, I'm gonna write these down. What's recovery and how will I know? So I feel inspired to do this video after a couple peer sessions I had last week, and this kind of came up. And so, excuse me, I'm excited to talk about this with you because I think it's a really important question. What does recovery look like? Well, the answer is not cut and dry. Recovery looks different for everybody. I actually posted something on my Instagram. If you're on Instagram, follow me at pureOCDChrissy. I posted something today that was like, recovery is not, there's no such thing as perfect recovery. And I think that's really hard for people with OCD because we are such black and white thinkers, right? So we want to see it as, okay, I'm here, I'm suffering, and now I know I have OCD, and I'm going to find the way, and then boom, I'm not going to suffer anymore. That's what we want recovery to be. There's not one person that I know of that doesn't want that to be the case. There's not one person that I know of that has been the case. And maybe it has for you, and please feel free to email me and tell me that it is the case for you, and I'll change my stance. But I look at it this way, and I can only speak for experience from myself, right? So I'll just share with you a little bit about my lived experience and then talk to you about what it's like for me now. So when I was diagnosed, I'd had OCD for about 12 years. I was severely suicidal. I'd been hospitalized, had a suicide attempt. And so when I was diagnosed, I had this significant relief of, first of all, it's not my fault. That was the biggest thing. It's not my fault. That was quickly covered up with anger. Like, why did I have this for so long? Why didn't someone notice this? I don't even know who I am. So all that, the relief went away very quickly. But in general, at first, it was this, okay, so what's been going on with me isn't something I caused. It's something that manifested because I have this illness, right? So I then I became fixated on, okay, so how do I fix it? Right? Because we're logical people. Okay, we have a problem. We need to figure out the solution and we need to fix it. And then everything's going to be fine. The end. I don't have to worry about this anymore. This is where recovery gets so tricky, unfortunately. So First of all, there can be a lot of barriers to treatment. There's barriers to diagnosis because you may just find out on the internet. You may be at this video and be like, oh my gosh, I have OCD. And then you go around the corner to your psychologist or therapist and you're like, I have OCD. I found out on the internet, like a lot of people do. And they're going to go, no, you don't. Because that's the first barrier to treatment, is that therapists don't know that OCD can manifest with intrusive thought and mental rituals, and especially when things go down the taboo nature, right? They don't know. And so then you're going to go down the rabbit hole of, maybe I don't have OCD because my therapist thinks I don't. That's okay. Like, everybody does. So you're all right. It's a normal occurrence to happen. So that can be a barrier. Finding a therapist, if you're in the States, that takes insurance. Oh, Lordy. I mean, there are hardly any that do. And that's a problem. It's a systems problem. There are establishments working on that, and OCD is one of them. OCD Game Changers, we're trying to figure out, we're doing focus groups and things like that, trying to figure out how to help get more awareness out, how to change insurance boards. These are things that are systems problems. They aren't just advocates problems or therapist problems. Like, if we could just write it all out and be like, change this and this is how it works, we would have done that 10 years ago. This is a systems issue and it sucks. But there's that barrier as well. So if people don't take insurance, then it's the issue of, can I afford therapy? First, can I even find a therapist that knows how to treat this and diagnose this, and then can I afford it, right? And then we have an international issue where there's not a lot of therapists that will do international therapy. There are a lot of countries where there is no knowledge about OCD whatsoever. We have a lot of barriers we have got to overcome. So I do want you to know that, like, if you're running into barriers, this is common. It's frustrating. It pisses me off. I wish there was something I could do and to wave a wand to make it better. And I'm doing everything that I can right now through OCD Game Changers, my nonprofit, to figure out how to change that with therapists and with people in the systems that can help, but it's going to take time. So when we look at recovery and we think, I just want to fix this, I want this to be done, well, then you hit these barriers, right? And so that's frustrating. It's not only frustrating on that front, but then it's this, but I just need to get better now. Then there becomes this urgency of needing to get better, because then you're going to think, well, I have OCD, I should be able to outthink it, and you can't. OCD is not a logical illness. It's not activated in the part of the brain that deals with logic, and so the more you try to out-logic it, the worse it gets. So let's fast forward. I know there's a lot of barriers, and I know that these things can take years and years and years, and I just want you to know, I get it. It's frustrating to me too. But then once you do get the ability to have professional help or medicinal help, whichever works for you, then there's this, okay, well, now everything should be solved. Okay, I'm better. I know the problem. I've figured out the solution, whether that's I've been through effective ERP, or I've been through this, or I'm taking this medicine. Well, then why? Or like, okay, what does recovery look like then? I mean, it's different for everybody. But I think the hope and the goal is that when you're in recovery from OCD, that I have no more intrusive thoughts. So I hear that, I get that all the time. When you're in recovery, do you not have intrusive thoughts? I'm just going to tell you from experience, my own lived experience, from working with people, it's impossible to not have intrusive thoughts. Impossible. Every person on the planet has intrusive thoughts. They may not have intrusive thoughts as bad as we have, because we have OCD, but people have unwanted thoughts that are distressing. So you are always going to have intrusive thoughts. The goal and living in recovery is not, I will never have intrusive thoughts again. Again, I know that's what we want. I would give anything to be able to just like pop a pill in the mail to you, like put it dump it in a soda and be like, drink this, never have intrusive thoughts again. But that's not the case. So this is where I wanted to go with this. If we can't get to a point where we don't have intrusive thoughts, that can be a source of hopelessness. And I know that. It's daunting. It can feel frustrating and sad. And I want to validate that for you. I felt the same way. When I found out that after therapy, I wasn't going to know, anything more than I knew the day that I started therapy, I was like, why am I spending money on something that isn't going to give me the answer? So, what is recovery like for me? I don't want to say the standard, I just don't try to find the answer and life is great, okay? Because that's not the truth. Living with OCD, even in recovery, can be challenging. Now, again, I'm just speaking for me. I know there's a lot of people out there that say their life is, yay. Whether they're lying or not is up to you to decide. Living with OCD can be challenging. Recovery with OCD can be challenging. Now, I also want to say this. Do I feel the way that I felt before therapy now? No. I had no tools. I had no hope. I was just, as Dr. Greenberg says, I had no agency at all. It was just, I was getting pulled around by a leash by OCD. I was suicidal, and there just didn't seem to be any end in sight because it was all this urgency of needing to know, needing to find out. I didn't know I had a choice. How did therapy change that? And how did that lead to my recovery? Therapy changed that for me. I did ERP therapy. I was really lucky. I could afford it at that point. I had a therapist, this was back in the 90s, that would do phone therapy. And so therapy for me gave me sort of a map of how not to have to solve something. I didn't know there was any other way, right? I was just dealing with what was coming up for me right then. I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't know I had agency, that I could make things differently because I could stop and instead of being pulled in by the intrusive thought, go, I get to choose whether or not I react with compulsions. Okay, so that changed a lot for me. The behavioral piece did change my life. And when I look at that from the stance of recovery, sure, recovery is pretty phenomenal after I learned that behavior can be different. Now this is, I often equate this to like exercise, because exercise is a learned behavior, right? You don't come out of the womb exercising. You have to learn to do it. You have to learn, if that's what you want to pursue, if it makes your quality of life better, if it makes, makes you healthier, makes you more active. And so it increases your quality of life, then boom, I'm going to do it. I'm going to choose to do it every day. I see the results of that every day. I didn't know that I had that choice until I was introduced to skiing, or I was introduced to running, or bike riding, or skateboarding, or whatever it is, that all of a sudden this has changed things for me. I see a difference. I'm going to choose to do this every day. That's how ERP felt for me. Okay. Fast forward into what I like to look at as emotional recovery. I had a lot of grief. Like I said before, as soon as I found out this was OCD, I had this relief, and then boom, it was gone. It was all anger, it was all frustration and resentment and all of those things that I needed to grieve. I didn't know how to grieve it. I didn't know I was allowed to grieve it. And no one told me that I should grieve it. And I don't like the word should, but I'm just going to use that because I think it's really important to acknowledge how grieving what we have been through with OCD, allowing ourselves to feel that, allowing ourselves to build a community and support system around us instead of just forgetting it and pushing it to the side. This all contributes to recovery, which is kind of where I want to end this. The emotional recovery piece for me was really, really hard to embrace because I wanted nothing to do with OCD after therapy. Okay, I had so much shame, so much guilt, so much trauma from suicide attempt, hospitalization, living with it for so long, not knowing. I had religious trauma from my theme, things like that. I wanted nothing to do with OCD. Okay, I've had therapy, so bye, get away from me. I'm gonna go live a normal life. No one will ever know. So then, of course, I went right into the shame cave. And I lived there. I didn't tell anybody anything that I had gone through. And so I wasn't actively nurturing my recovery. I was actually in denial. I had this whole experience, but I don't want anyone to know, and I'm so ashamed of it, I can't look at it. So when I think about emotional recovery now, what does that look like for me? I am okay that OCD is still part of my life. What do I mean by that? I don't mean I wake up every day and it's beating me over the head like it was before therapy. What I mean is I'm okay that I can wake up and I know my brain still operates the way it did when I was 8 and 14 and 22 and 30. That's not going to change. But I can change. I can change my response to that, which is the behavioral component. But I can also change my emotional response to that, which is I can still love myself. I can still find ways to see that I'm deserving and worthy of love, not only from myself, but from others. And I can get comfortable inside of having OCD. When we say OCD is a lifelong illness, that's what's so scary. It's lifelong. Oh, I can't take the suffering. I don't want to do it. Right? But when we say it's a lifelong illness, and inside of living in OCD, I can hone all of these tools in order to live with it and live my best life. I don't necessarily like that phrase, but I'm using it. Live the best life that I can any given day. I feel freedom. Clawing my way out of OCD, clawing my way out of my brain doesn't work, okay? It's like clawing your way out of a broken leg. Oh, it's still gonna be broken. It doesn't matter where you claw yourself, it's still broken. And sometimes you have to get it fixed. And then you have to live within the consequences after it's broken. So recovery for me, especially the emotional recovery piece, was getting as comfortable as I could inside of knowing and understanding that. I hesitate to use the word acceptance, but I'm going to. Accepting that that's where I will reside. Some days I do find myself fighting it and not wanting it or being sad, and that's okay too. But in general, I can live inside of that and still find peace and still find joy and abundance. And I can still find people and community who accept me and love me no matter what. And so can you. So the start of this video was, what is recovery like? I do want to tell you and share with you, this is just my experience with recovery. Everyone's recovery is different, and everyone's recovery is fluid. Right? There are some years I could even look at and be like, oh, I was on point, and look at that. And then there are some years that I'm like, that was fucked up. That was a bad year. And that's okay too. I, again, look at it as I'm still existing within the confines of what I know is always going to be there, OCD. And as long as I'm not trying to claw my way out of it, because that's what causes me suffering, and I stay inside of it and go, how can I get as comfortable as I can? Make the best decisions that I can within this to make myself better. That also includes getting therapy for trauma. That also includes having healthy relationships and healthy boundaries. continuing my education on things, continuing to build community, continuing to go to groups, things like that. All of these little things I can do inside of this and build a healthy, wonderful, productive life. Life in general is tough. Not every day is happy. I can't stand toxic positivity. I can't stand it. Be happy. Like no one is every day. People maybe on social media, but whatever. When we have OCD, we internalize that and think, I can't ever be that because of OCD. Scratch that. Put that aside. No one can have that. I don't care what they have, what anybody has or doesn't have. So how can you build your own recovery story, get as comfortable as you can, and continue to put the tools in your toolbox inside of here and build the life that you want? I know you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm telling you 100%. And I'm so grateful that you're here today, and I hope that this message resonated. And wherever you are in your recovery journey, I am going to tell you 2 things. Number 1, you are deserving. Number 2, I'm going to tell you 3 things. Number 2, you are worthy. Number 3, you are loved. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.